Now, aren't you curious about how L'Oreal actually works with external parties to co-create products? I would now like to introduce Fabian Cabirol, APAC Open Innovation Director, as well as John Dangerfield, Chief Operating Officer of Austrianova, a Singapore biotech that produces cell-based products. Austrianova was also actually one of the winners of the inaugural L'Oreal Innovation Runway. So Fabian and John, lovely to have you guys join me here today. How are you guys doing?
Thank you. Fine.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you, Julian.
To Fabian first, okay. Let's just have a very casual chat over here. Could you just share with us a little bit more about open innovation in L'Oreal?
Okay, thanks, Juliana. So we've been working with partners for a very long time, actually, at L'Oreal. The type of relationship we've had actually was classical supplier of raw material or academic collaboration, etc. Now, what has changed a lot is the pace of innovation has really accelerated in recent years, and where you find actually innovation has also evolved. So today we are really interested in working with startups, entrepreneurs, and a number of different innovators that we are not used to work with in the past. So we've created that open innovation entity to really address this need and to be more disruptive in the future with this kind of partners. I think L'Oreal can bring a lot of things to these partners. One of our key strengths is our more than 100 years experience in beauty. We have a lot of experts in the deep tech field that can really help translate some of the technology to cosmetic solutions. And I think that's really something quite exciting that we can bring in this type of new partnership. So the open innovation is really geared to promote and to drive new transformation from other fields into the beauty industry for the consumer that we actually serve. Yeah.
I think that's definitely very exciting and good news for startups and smaller companies. To John, so since winning, the L'Oreal Innovation Runway, the event, when you're working together with L'Oreal, what kind of advice did you get, or what kind of experiences did you manage to go through together that you find very valuable that you're, happy to share with the audience here today?
Yeah. So, I mean, essentially for us, it helped us to develop a new product pipeline. So we come from the medical field, and we had ideas between ourselves. So maybe we could use it for food industry or for the cosmetics industry, but we needed a strong partner to help us to make that become a reality. And we were very lucky to have the opportunity that L'Oreal could, be that partner for us. It gave us a greater understanding of the commercial process of cosmeceutical products and so on, because we really had no idea of that. So, for just to take an example, formulation of things. I mean, for the cell therapy field, it's a very different product process. So we gained a lot of knowledge and experience, which is valuable for anything else we might do for a completely new market. Also, we found it very good to work in a close way where we could have an open conversation and really talk about any challenges that we had in an open and fast way, which helped the development. And that was aided, fortunately, by the fact that we had very good project results. So that's worked very nicely, and that's just a human team management thing, which gelled very well between us. Yeah.
Definitely very interesting. So, okay, L'Oreal is actually working with Austrianova in Singapore to develop new materials, the one that you've just mentioned. To Fabian, can you actually also share a little bit more about developing other types of products in other countries in the region, perhaps?
Yes, indeed. So in Asia, actually, it's a very lively and dynamic ecosystem because there's a huge diversity of consumers, very few hotspots that are really scientifically very strong and can actually bring new developments in deep tech quite quickly. But all of that is actually connected to the consumers that these innovations are supposed to serve. So one example, for instance, is in China. China is known for the strength of its AI, digital kind of connectivity, the kind of solution that they bring to consumer to engage them, to promote e-commerce, etc., etc. So I would say China is a good example on how consumer engagement can be revolutionized completely by the digital tools that are being developed. And here you have a very unique ecosystem where everything is tailored to the Chinese consumer. So at the end of the day, the innovation is born and is linked to the consumer himself or herself. So here we have something that we can capitalize on quite quickly, but what we notice also in China is the emergence of sustainability. It's a very large priority for the government. They've made that actually a clear mission for them to work on this particular topic. And you see an abundance of scientific discoveries and new academic programs and innovators actually who are engaging in the sustainable issues that China is facing today, with a lot of success actually. So when we analyze in a very thorough way what the ecosystem is being driven by and how it's moving, we can then determine what the value L'Oréal can help contribute, and also what the value we can help tap on and build together so that we can enrich our pipeline internally. Maybe if we think more about Southeast Asia and India, I think what we see is also a very strong connectivity with the local consumers in India, for instance, with naturality. A lot of Indian startups are looking at natural products, sustainability, etc. And you also find that in Indonesia and in Thailand, but because the consumers are different, you find an adaptation actually of these solutions for the local consumers. One also interesting point is the emergence of diagnostics in India. I think the democratization of diagnostics to bring solution close to the patients and early detection has been a very big success for startupper in India, with very clever and innovative way actually to bringing that close to the patients. And for beauty, it means we can really tap on this quick, accessible, cost-effective way to also diagnose beauty kind of endpoints and help the consumer select the right products, the right solution for them, etc. So I think that shows a little bit the differences between those ecosystems and how L'Oréal can actually bring value, but also by understanding what the ecosystem can bring, really look at who to talk to and how to address and what to expect from those particular entrepreneurs.
It definitely sounds like you're a very, very busy man over at L'Oréal, doing lots of things. Of course, different markets require different trends. But I think one big question that all of our startups have today, perhaps I'll give this question over to John first. Do you have any advice for startups who are looking to work with big companies such as L'Oréal?
I mean, obviously, once the door's been opened and a project has been started, I think challenges can be that startups exist day to day. So fundamentally, the agendas of the people in the companies can be different. Just an example, for a startup, it's cash flow, major challenges. And for a larger company, it might more be about an internal sort of product pipeline being developed and people meeting milestones and so on. And so that's a very broad definition, but essentially the startup has to acknowledge that the larger company is the driving force. They're the ones in control at the end of the day. They're the ones who can make it happen. So it's the job of the startup to try and fit as fast as possible to understanding what interests the big company and ticking those boxes really.
So in terms for Fabian, what would you be looking out for when you're looking for partnership with a startup?
So that's a very good question, because I think it's important to know what you need and how you can really bring value internally. Too often we are driven by, let's say, entirely a push of a technology that is interesting, that can be exciting from a scientific point of view, but may not actually bring the value that we expect to bring actually internally. So I think the first thing for us is to align actually what we need with what we are seeing in terms of technology, and really understand that the project for us is actually to give clarity on what's the path to success. So if we can give that clarity to a startup, it's not just a proof of concept or not just an initial engagement, but it's really how can we create value on the long run, and how we must be actually transparent with the startup of how long it takes, what's the path to success itself, and what will it take, because we are not usually on the same timeline, and it takes a little bit of time to adjust all of that. Now, maybe one advice for the corporate as well is to really look at not just project-based or POC-based, because when a startup invests actually with the corporate, they invest a lot of their time, their effort. Sometimes they change a little bit their business model to fit what the corporate is wanting to bring to the table. It's a huge effort actually from the startup. So that relationship is actually a lifeline to some extent. And I think we need to respect that as well as corporate. So it doesn't mean necessarily because the relationship cannot be flourishing at that time that it has to end. So I think we can still bring a lot of value for the startup, even if it's mentoring or supporting them with technical expertise, etc., etc. And hopefully down the road, you can find a time where the time is appropriate, or again, the right time to work together. Yeah.
So thank you so much to John and Fabian for, taking us a little bit behind the scenes and getting a little bit more insight on open innovation in L'Oreal. Right now, we're going to jump right into the action, and I'm going to be introducing our panel of judges for today. So let us welcome